At 10:47 a.m. local time, in the tense waters of the Black Sea, a single alarming contact appeared on the USS Gravely's radar. The Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, call sign Hammerhead, was carrying out a routine freedom of navigation operation 80 nautical miles from the Crimean Peninsula, crossing a digital boundary Moscow viewed as its own. Inside the steel-gray quiet of the Combat Information Center, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen watched the high-speed contact race in from the northeast. Its transponder was off, its course was direct. At first, it moved at 500 knots, then suddenly surged to Mach 1.4, closing almost a mile every 3 seconds. The aircraft was a Russian Aerospace Forces Sukhoi Su-30SM Flanker H, flying at 3,000 feet and already inside the Gravely's defensive perimeter. Through static on the emergency maritime frequency, the pilot's voice came through sharp and aggressive. "American vessel, you are entering a Russian defense zone. Turn back immediately." That was the provocation, but the real shock did not unfold in the sky. It happened on the Gravely's tactical displays. The moment the Russian jet's radar went active and formed a confirmed targeting track on the U.S. ship, the Aegis combat system shifted instantly into its highest alert state. In less than 400 milliseconds, its digital core calculated a full defensive response. The crew barely had time to react before the deep automated voice of the system filled the room. "Target classified, defensive solution available." This confrontation was not an accident. It was the collision of two rival ideas about power, territory, and control. For the USS Gravely DDG-107, the mission was to demonstrate technological deterrence and protect the principle of open international waters, a principle tied to nearly $19 trillion in global trade each year. After Russia's increasingly assertive moves in the region, the Black Sea had become one of the world's most sensitive pressure points. Every patrol, every radar sweep, and every radio message carried strategic weight. The credibility of the entire NATO alliance was being tested in real time. The Russian objective was clear: pressure the Gravely, gather data, and measure how fast the American crew would respond. They wanted to study the ship's electronic signature, its reaction window, and its defensive posture without pushing the encounter beyond the point of no return. Their plan depended on a dangerous but carefully calculated maneuver. The Su-30SM would rush across the destroyer's bow, forcing the U.S. crew either to answer over the radio or adjust course. Somewhere beyond the horizon, Russian electronic surveillance vessels would be listening closely, recording every signal the Gravely revealed. But the Russian pilot was working from an incomplete and outdated understanding of modern U.S. Navy integrated operations. His confidence rested on one mistaken assumption: that the Gravely was standing alone. He had no idea that his approach was being monitored not only by the destroyer's own AN/SPY-1D V radar, but also by a far larger defensive network that had already predicted his mission profile hours before his aircraft ever left the runway. The aircraft closing in was a Su-30SM, a twin-engine, highly maneuverable flanker variant built for aggressive air operations and precision attack roles. This particular jet, painted in low-visibility gray and marked with the tactical designation Red 32, was flown by Major Viktor Kuzmin, a veteran pilot known for risky, theatrical maneuvers near NATO airspace. Kuzmin's goal was psychological. He wanted to use the aircraft's raw power, its massive thrust, and its ability to pull extreme turns to pressure the American crew into making a mistake. He believed speed, noise, and proximity could force hesitation inside the Gravely's Combat Information Center. The threat was serious. Red 32 was carrying a full operational loadout, including 2 R-77 radar-guided systems and 2 R-27ET extended-range infrared-guided systems. From the aircraft's current distance, the Gravely had less than 90 seconds to respond if the situation escalated. Kuzmin's plan was built around surprise. He intended to approach at high speed and low altitude, dropping towards sea-skimming level to reduce the destroyer's radar visibility window. Then, at the last possible moment, he would climb sharply, gain a visual lock, and use a powerful burst from his PESA radar to pressure the ship's sensors. He wanted to appear like a ghost on the edge of the screen, then suddenly become the biggest problem in the room. But Major Kuzmin did not know how large the intelligence gap truly was. His briefing had missed one of the most important pieces of the American defensive picture: the real-time power of cooperative engagement capability, or CEC. He thought he was challenging a single ship. In reality, he was entering the reach of an invisible, seamless network linking aircraft, satellites, sensors, and surface assets across the region. That blind spot was about to turn his bold maneuver into a humiliating tactical failure. The technology that took away Red 32's advantage had started working 24 hours earlier. The first detection was not a radar contact. It was an infrared signature captured by a U.S. Air Force SBIRS, space-based infrared satellite, which detected the heat plume from the Su-30SM's engines during pre-flight activity at an airbase near Novorossiysk. That was the first link in the response chain. The data was then refined by overhead synthetic aperture radar imagery from a KH-11 reconnaissance satellite, which confirmed the flanker's full operational loadout. Within moments, the information was fused, encrypted, and transmitted through a protected U.S. military space ground network directly into the Gravely's Combat Information Center. It did not arrive as a vague alert. It arrived as a complete tactical picture, showing the aircraft's expected route, maximum speed, and possible engagement envelope. The Gravely could also rely silently on Allied eyes in the sky. 300 miles away, over Romania, an E-2D Advanced Hawkeye radar aircraft was using its powerful AN/APY-9 UHF radar to scan the wider Black Sea region. Through the high-speed Link 16 data-sharing network and cooperative engagement capability, the Gravely's Aegis system could see the Su-30SM through more than its own radar. It was also receiving the Hawkeye's longer-range, clearer view of the airspace. This was the true strength of a system-of-systems approach. The Gravely did not need to reveal its full radar posture or expose unnecessary electronic signatures. It could remain quiet, connected, and fully aware while Red 32 flew deeper into a defensive picture it did not even know existed. The Gravely was not exposing itself. It was watching the threat through the Hawkeye's eyes, using the wider network while keeping its own electronic profile controlled. Deep inside the destroyer, the Aegis Baseline 9 system, the ship's central combat brain, began building 18 possible intercept tracks at the same time. Its primary defensive option, the Standard Missile 2 Block 3A, was already standing by inside the ship's vertical launch cells. The SM-2 is a 15-foot, 1,500-pound interceptor driven by a solid-fuel rocket motor and capable of racing past Mach 3.5. Below deck, inside the Gravely's vertical launch system, the 21-inch wide interceptor waited in silence. Its digital launch sequence was armed. Only one final order was missing before the ship could send its $500,000 answer toward a $50 million threat. The next 40 seconds unfolded like a storm of electronic signals, calculations, and restrained force. At 10:48:12 a.m., Red 32 crossed the 20 nautical mile line, the range where Aegis upgraded the aircraft to a high-priority threat. Lieutenant Commander Chen gave the order. Set Condition 1 Zulu, weapons free, engage on my command. Fire Control relayed the command to the bridge. The destroyer pushed up to 28 knots. At 10:48:20 a.m., Major Kuzmin activated the Su-30SM's powerful NO-11M bars passive electronically scanned array radar in continuous illumination mode. In naval combat language, that signal meant one thing. The aircraft was preparing for an immediate strike profile. The Gravely's electronic warfare suite, the AN/SLQ-32V, erupted with alerts. The system identified the contact as hostile and flagged the aircraft as a launch warning threat. At 10:48:21 a.m., before the alarms had even finished echoing through the Combat Information Center, Aegis had already calculated the exact point in the sky where any incoming object would need to be intercepted. The SM-2 sequence entered its final hold. On the tactical display, the projected success rate appeared at 99.8%. At 10:48:25 a.m., Red 32 was only 8 nautical miles away. Kuzmin banked hard, dropping to just 100 feet above the water and pushing his jet close to Mach 1.5. He was preparing to climb suddenly for a simulated attack run. This was the moment he expected the American ship to react badly. He expected sudden course changes, panicked radio traffic, and a flood of warnings across the emergency channel. Instead, the Gravely stayed silent. No panic, no confusion, no wasted motion, just a steel gray wall of calm technology moving through the Black Sea. At 10:48:27 a.m., the turning point arrived. The Gravely delivered its answer without firing a physical interceptor. Lieutenant Commander Chen gave a different command. Initiate full-spectrum electronic warfare. Launch Nulka. The AN/SLQ-32V system released a precisely shaped burst of high-powered, digitally coded electromagnetic energy. This was not ordinary interference. It was deception at machine speed. Inside Red 32's cockpit, Kuzmin's instruments turned against him. His radar screen did not simply go dark. It became worse than useless. Suddenly, the Gravely appeared as a massive phantom target 10 miles to the south. At the same time, his display showed 12 high-speed inbound contacts from the north, all created by the destroyer's digital countermeasure system. Kuzmin was no longer looking at the battlefield. He was looking at the battlefield the Gravely wanted him to see. At the same instant, a 7-foot rocket-propelled active decoy launched vertically from the destroyer's deck. The Nulka system rose above the water and hovered roughly 100 feet over the waves, transmitting a radar image far larger than the ship itself. To an incoming seeker, the decoy looked more attractive than the destroyer. It was tuned to draw attention away from the Gravely and toward a false target. The message was silent but unmistakable. "We see you. We understood your move before you made it, and you are already inside our response. We have broken your radar lock. Your targeting picture is no longer reliable, and our decoy is already in the air, waiting for anything you send." At 10:48:30 a.m., Red 32 was now only 5 nautical miles from the USS Gravely. Then, without warning, the Russian jet abandoned its aggressive approach. Inside the cockpit, Major Kuzmin watched his once clear radar picture fall apart. Phantom targets filled the screen. The Gravely appeared to shift in an impossible direction. Incoming contacts seemed to appear where none should exist. His advanced fire control system was no longer showing him the real battlefield. It was showing him confusion, and Kuzmin understood what that meant. His own training told him that when the radar picture cannot be trusted, pressing forward is no longer bold. It is reckless. Any action taken from that point could go badly wrong. His voice cut through the radio, no longer confident. "Bogey, bogey, system failure, aborting." Seconds later, the Su-30SM pulled away hard. Its engines roared as the aircraft climbed sharply, straining through a heavy turn, while Kuzmin tried to escape the electronic maze below him. Then the Black Sea went quiet again. But the silence that followed carried enormous strategic weight. As Red 32 fled northwest, its pilot shaken and its mission unsuccessful, the USS Gravely's real mission had only just begun. The destroyer's AN/SLQ-32 electronic warfare suite had not only disrupted the Russian jet's approach, it had also collected a treasure of intelligence. Every second of Red 32's radar emissions had been captured. Its frequency shifts, pulse patterns, targeting behavior, and the exact moment its systems lost reliability under American electronic pressure were all recorded. Every signal was logged, every detail was time-stamped, every weakness was preserved. That data was compressed and sent through a secure satellite link for deeper analysis. The result was a decisive non-physical victory. The U.S. Navy avoided escalation, suffered no damage, and gained intelligence worth far more than the encounter itself. For the Russian side, the cost was not physical. It was technical and psychological. A high-end aircraft had been forced to reveal how its systems behaved under pressure. A mission meant to test NATO's response had instead handed the Americans valuable insight into how to counter that aircraft and related systems in the future. The Gravely's discipline ensured that no physical exchange took place. Its technology ensured that the tactical outcome was never in doubt. The lesson was simple. Control does not always belong to the side making the loudest move. In modern operations, it belongs to the side that sees first, understands faster, and responds with precision. Inside the Gravely, the crew slowly stood down from general quarters. The adrenaline began to fade, replaced by quiet satisfaction. They had not only protected their ship, they had demonstrated a new standard for electronic engagement across the Black Sea. This silent victory delivered a powerful message. In modern military confrontation, information moves faster than any aircraft. Major Kuzmin's Su-30SM may have been a Mach 1.5 platform, but it was made strategically ineffective by a defense network that had already mapped, predicted, and prepared for its actions. The Russian pilot trusted the strength of a single aircraft. He failed to understand that he was not facing a single destroyer. He was flying into a connected system that stretched from orbit to the sea surface, sharing data at the speed of light. That was the real advantage. The USS Gravely was supported by satellites, airborne radar, secure data links, electronic warfare systems, and the Aegis Baseline 9 combat system. Together, they formed an information-centered defense network designed to detect, analyze, and counter threats before the pilot fully understood the situation. In reality, Kuzmin's mission was already compromised the moment his engines started. Long before Red 32 reached the horizon, the American network had built a detailed tactical picture and prepared a response. The encounter in the Black Sea was not a close call. It was a controlled demonstration of deterrence. The American message was silent but unmistakable. Try to find a gap, and you will discover there is no gap, only a net. And that raises the real question. If the AN/SLQ-32 can confuse and overwhelm the systems of a modern $50 million fighter, what chance do older, less connected platforms have against the full reach of U.S. electronic warfare? Share your thoughts below on this new era, where dominance is no longer measured only by speed or firepower, but by information, coordination, and control.